Ooh, happy Halloween. Happy All Hallows Eve, everybody. Oh, boogie, boogie, boogie. How are you doing? What are you planning to do for Halloween? What did you do for Halloween? What did you dress up as? Did you have fun? Did you give out candy? Did you get candy? Did you scare the leaving bejeebers out of people's in their pants? Like, boom, But what's gonna happen in the future? Is this next coming ghost gonna give you the heebie-jeebies that's gonna shit your pants? Probably not. It's just a story. Or is it? Have you seen real ghosts before? I believe I have. Once. But it's not about me. It's about saying what the ghost is gonna go boogie 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 today. We're going back to Tohoku with the T. That one would have been good for Halloween. And that one. And after that one. Well. Ooh. The Kohada Koehiji. Ooh. I mean, to me, it just looks like a haunting kokuri. Anyway, Kohada Koehiji. Well, definitely a name I've never heard of before. Who is this guy? Translation: none. This is his name. I mean, it looks like just a man. It looks like a ghost is coming out of this man with two other spirit orbs. Oh, so this is just a human being, or at least a guy. Okay, so Kohada Koehiji is actually a famous ghost from the Edo period with strong connections to the theater. Oh, so it was like a theater ghost. Reminds me of these stories where you basically, like, this man is a good doctor, or mostly in theater, like when you go to the stage, you say, oh, this guy, he haunts the stages and protects the people on stage and stuff like that. The real life event that inspired this story supposedly took place in the 1700s. Ooh, 300 years ago. Over the years, rumors mixed with folklore and fantasy until a story became written down 100 years later. In 1803, called Fukushu Kiden Asaka no Numa, which basically says, The Strange Tale of Revenge from Asaka Swamp. His story was adapted from the kabuki play Edo 80 Otogizoshi, which is basically the colorful fairy tales. He remained a popular figure throughout all of Edo. He just looks angry. I don't know how popular he'd be. Well, apparently, Koheiji is known to be jealousy is said to jealously guard its own statue as the best ghost actor. To this day, actors who perform the fairy tales or other adaptations of his stories are haunted by strange occurrences, suspicions, accidents, and even injuries. There's actually a ghost story about the movie Poltergeist. I think they did a remake. The original 3 Poltergeists. You see, like the first one, the director, he actually used real-life skeletons in a certain grave scene, because there's a scene where a guy actually shouts out that, hey, you moved the headstones, but you kept the grave bodies where they were, because the house was basically built on top of a Indian burial ground, and he used real skeletons because actually they were cheaper, basically. And it in the makings of the story, someone like so and so died in a car crash, someone else died somewhere else. I think there was fire set, or there was a whole bunch of stuff. There was 3 films of the three poltergeist films, and each film kind of got worse. But also each time they tried to do something with a film, an actor or someone got constantly hurt or got killed after the filming of it. So there are some superstitions and stories of truth of things like this one. There are some times they believe that people who try to actually copy or tell a story, bad stuff happens if they try to re-talk about this guy. Sadly, since he was human, he would have the feeling of jealous. Well, here's the legend, the original story of the, So basically, when Ishikawa Danjuro II, he commanded the stage, they lived a third-rate actor named Kohada. So he was part of Moritaza Theater and studied under the master Unagi Tarobi. These are just random names, either real names of people, but I don't know any of these. So apparently, Koheiji-san was actually a terrible actor. He was just terrible. On top of that, he was also very unattractive. He had pale, languid skin, sunken, flat eyes, and just disheveled hair. Languid skin. Now, I don't know what that is. Let's go at least search that. Languid look. Let's see. Languid face. Let's type up define. Showing disinclination or for physical exertion or effort. Oh, here you go. Weak or faint or illness. So he basically just didn't look healthy. He would just look a little bleh. So Koheiji-san was not just a terrible actor. He just was not good looking, period. That's not nice. He was unable to land even the smallest roles of any of the kabuki productions. That definitely sounds jealousy, Simpson. Koheiji-san's manager actually felt sorry and retorted to bribing and begging anything just for a struggling performer. Some people would do that. Some people are some people feel sorry and just say, hey, just let this guy try to do something. So he landed a part for him with a traveling show in the countryside where the audience were demanding that they were in Edo. Far less demanding. So people were more appreciative or just more accepting of anything. Because of his poor appearance allowed the productions to save money on makeup, he was always cast as a ghost. Well, that's nice. That's one of the first. This sounds like one of the first stories of being typecasted. Oh, you don't look that healthy? I'm gonna put you as a monster. Oh, you're fat? Well, you're gonna be this character. I go, well, that's just nice. Well, anyway. So he believed this would be his final chance to do anything, so he did everything in his power to make his role believable. He studied the faces of dead, making noises of the way his muscle fell limp and his eyes stared blankly. Ew. Some actors do that. They would actually just do what they can. Because there's a couple films where they said, hey, you are supposed to just hate my character. And then all of a sudden, there's these people who say, this will be the last time I'm going to say something nice to you. After then, I'm going to treat you with disrespect. I go like, why? Because my character does this. You're not your character. Some people need to portray the character outward in the world just so that he or she can get into character. But when you do that, you do start getting... You start blurring the lines between what is your reality and what is fantasy. Well, anyway, so he basically practiced so much stuff. He copied things, he practiced haunted voices, blah, blah, blah. He did all this stuff. Apparently it worked. His acting was widely acclaimed. He was suddenly the talk of the countryside. Oh, man. Other actors in his troupe had actually admitted finally that he was good at one thing. You're good at one thing? That's just wrong. That's definitely where you get to become typecast. Well, you're good at one thing, sir. Okay, what's that? Being a ghost! Well, anyway. So Koheiji-san was married to a woman named Otsuka. Wait. There's a typo. I found a typo. Otsuka. I found a typo. Anyway. So, she was a widow, actually, of the disgraced Ikushima Hanroku, another actor who was of course he was. He was executed for stabbing and killing the great Ishikawa Danjiro the First. Where did we hear that at? Oh, Daddy! Do. So, this guy was an actor. He was the father of this guy, who is the commander of a third-rate... He commanded the stage, and so anyway, this woman, Otsuka, married this guy and killed his father, and I guess he did his best to continue his daddy stuff. Anyway, he actually stabbed him publicly on the stage. Well, the question is, was that on purpose or not? Because actually there was one time when there was actually a few killings and stabbings that attacked on recordings that actually they were accidents. Some of them were accidents, some of them were actually not on purpose. Well, anyway, he loved this woman deeply, but she was embarrassed by her husband and thought him fool. She fell out of love with him and ran into the arms of another man in the Moritaza, a taiko player named Adachi Sakuro-san. So while Koheiji was actually acting in the countryside, Sakuro-san lived in... Okay, why not? Sakuro-san lived in Koheiji-san's house with Otsuka, pretending just to be the master of the house. Eventually, she asked him to get rid of Koheiji so they could be together. Oh. And while that was happening, jeez, look, holy squid! This is gonna be long. Well, anyway, so while they were living together, Koheiji was acting in the rural Asaka, known as the present-day Fukushima president, okay? So, Sakuro's brother abandoned... Jeez Louise, what type of family did... Oh my gosh. This is real. These stories are actually real. My gosh. What's really going on with these people? But then again, and they said this happened in the 1800s. There's some weird shit that goes around in the past. Anyway, so Sakuro, who's in love with Otsuka, and Otsuka loves Sakuro, his brother, live nearby the house. Of course he did. And they would get help to get rid of him. Ooh. Sakura traveled to Asaka. Koheiji was surprised and delighted that his troopmate had come to join his performance. Wait. Was Unpei part of Kohei's troupe? Or did he know him? Anyway, so he played the drums while Koheiji played the ghost, of course, and they were highly entertained. Among them was a local magistrate who actually awarded Koheiji 5 golden ryo, a very gracious sum. I wonder how much a ryo would be now. Between shows, Sakura and Unpei planned Koheiji's murder. That's how he died. He died by murder between their two brothers. Because Otsuka started to fall out of love of him and she wanted to fall in love with Sakura. Well, how did he die? The performance one day was cancelled because of rain, so Sakura invited Koheiji out to the swamp. Swamp fishing. Wait, I was just joking. To go fishing. I want to go to the swamp to go fishing. Swamp, ew. Who would eat swamp fish? Once they were far away from everything, Sakura struck him with a fishing rod, knocked him out of the boat. Now, I don't go fishing, but I've held a few fishes. I've held a few fishing rods. They aren't heavy. How do you knock someone out with a fishing rod? You could smack him and go, ah, and it kind of daze him a bit. Anyway, so he flew him over the boat into the swamp, and then his head down in the water and held him there so he just kind of like dazed him, knocked him out, and then just drowned him by pushing him under. Ugh. His body sank to the bottom of the swamp. So Sakura fled and went to Unpei's secret hideout. Unpei was there and he told Sakura that his guest had already arrived. He took Sakura into the next room where Koheiji's waterlogged body... Wait a minute. Lay on the floor. Sakura was shocked. I'm shocked. How did he get there? So he drowned. Sakura went home and Koheiji's body was actually there. Wow, shut my mouth. Sakura was shocked. Unpei said that it was already there when he arrived. Sakura opened his sleeves and there was 5 gold ryo, which was paid to Koheiji. Ha! Now his money and his wife are mine. I can see why someone would be a jealous ghost. Ooh, ghostly scares. Anyway, Koheiji's body rattled and rolled over. With hands as cold as ice and strong as steel, he grabbed Sakura's wrist. He screamed and tried to get free, but the corpse was locked. He tugged and yanked at his wrist harder and harder until the corpse flopped on top of his own body. Like a fish. Koheiji's eyes popped open and he looked in the gaze. Ew. He was so good at pretending to be a ghost. He probably became one. That's when Sakura screeched. Unpei heard this and rushed into her room. The corpse was lying on top of his brother. Eyes looked in a vengeful stare. Sakura was paralyzed with fear. I would have shot myself by then. Because, seriously, if a person's body just pops on top of you and just starts moving like it's, even though he's supposed to be dead, that would be a time to just end your own life. I'm like, I'm done. So he couldn't move. Unpei drew his sword. He lopped Koheiji's head off. Oh. The roll-headed... Let's try that again. The head rolled across the room, but the rest of him was still gripping him tightly. Finally, Unpei cut each of his fingers, and then he was finally freed. Without a... Shoot. What happened? Oh. Where am I at? Ah, here we go. head rolled, he cut it finally off. With a moment's delay, he fled the door. He didn't stop until they reached Edo. Reminds me of this one. I actually watched the film, the Sleepy Hollow film with Johnny Depp. I was considering about the idea about stagecoaches. They like the coachman, the driver. Some people say, oh, this trip is like a 2-3 day trip. I go, where does the driver sleep at? Some people go, like this guy, he ran and didn't stop and reach Edo. If you go somewhere, like in a coach, where does the coachman sleep? On top of the roof? Inside the coach as well? I don't know. Well, anyway, he arrived at the residence. He called out for her. In a panic, he rapidly told her everything that happened: the murder, the ghost, the icy cold grip. Otsuka was confused. Koheiji just got home a little while ago. What? What's good? This is just bonkers. He was tired, so he was resting in the back room. Sakura definitely didn't believe it. He took Otsuka's hand and timidly crept into the house, where he was sleeping. When Sakura entered the room, he saw someone sleeping behind the folded screen. He tried to pull the screen over, but a pale blue tingled hand grabbing the end of it and held it fast. He did not give up. He pulled and pulled. There was a popping sound. The floating screen crashed onto the floor with Sakura. 5 severed fingers rolled around the floor and then began to... Oh my gosh, this is getting creepy. I thought the ghost stories I was trying to read in Texas were scary. If this was actually how it really happened... I definitely get the squid out of Edo. The sickening smell of death filled the room, but there was no body behind the screen. A tiny flame, though, floated up to the air and flew out of the window. Sakura was terrified, but she was undisturbed. If anything, she seemed relieved that Koheiji was finally dead. She soon arranged for a funeral and then for a wedding. Some people do that. People go, oh, there's this dumb video on YouTube and they say, what would you do if I died? Would you get remarried? And I go, woman, why would you care? I mean, I guess that would make, I don't know, I guess if you're very loving, but some people are like, if I die, are you going to remarry somebody? I don't know. Probably. Maybe not. But apparently, Otsuka did. Anyway, so these two did live as husband and wife. Half a year passed without any problems. They forgot about her ex-husband. Anyway, one night, Sakura awoke to find another man in the bed between him and Otsuka. He leapt to his feet in a rage, but then there was nobody. For a moment, he began to doubt her fidelity. Seriously? Maybe it is all her fault. I don't know. It's just that she was in love with the person. Then she fell in love with the person and fell in love with you, dude. And then now... I don't know. Well, anyway. So, oh my gosh, how long until the story's over? Almost done. So anyway, later on, another time, he returned home. Sakura saw a figure climbing into his bedroom window. When he peeked in, he saw another man with him. And the drunkard, he was drunk. I'm drinking. He ran to there where he drew his sword. She woke up in a panic. Without thinking, she raised her hand in defense. In doing so, she grabbed the sword's blade. And then all 5... Jeez Louise. What's with this guy cutting things? He and his brother. The fingers fell to the floor and rotted away. I mean, look, your body doesn't rot though quickly. Could that be the sword? What sword is he using? It better not be the sword of Kusanagi. Anyway. Then they smelled more death. A mysterious stranger was nowhere to be seen. Laughter was heard from above. It was his voice. Ew. Otsuka lost her mind and fell to the floor. Every night, the ghost returned to haunt them. As the hauntings continued, Sakura began to lose his mind. In life, Koheiji had so perfected the ghost act that it was indistinguishable from the real thing. In death, his performance was so terrifying and sublime, Otsuka never recovered and died afterwards. Her treatment had cost Sakura nearly everything, including the 5 gold ryo that was stolen. Okay. Sakura gave up his few remaining gold for the funeral of Otsuka. However, the priest he hired was a con artist. Oh my gosh, this guy cannot catch a break for his life or death. And ran off with the rest of his money. Penniless and insane, Sakura was forced to live as a beggar. One day he saw the priest who had tricked him and stole his money. He chased him down, but the priest swung his staff and beat him up. Then the bruised, soaked Sakura realized that it was not the same priest. He crawled out of the pond and apologized, but he struck him constantly, nearly death. Then some stringers broke up the fight. This would definitely make a good story. I'm not sure what type. A horror film, though? Everyone always wants to make things horror. This is close to being the best, one of the better stories to make horror films. They took Sakura back to the house. His wounds were severe, and he just fell into insanity afterwards. All night, his neighbors would hear him crying. He never woke up. When they found him next day, he was bloated and discolored, just like the drowned corpse. Ew. Sometime later on, the son, Ichikawa Danjuro II, heard of the story of the famous Kohada Koehiji's tragic murder. He pitied him, offered prayers to his honor, and prayed the drowned ghost would appear before him. Koheiji, you are only ever good to be a ghost. With the final recognition, his ghost seemed content and vanished. So he finally got some praise from a man that people were just saying, hey, this guy is pathetic. And then he got angry. This is one strange ghost story. One strange original legend. I mean, it started out cool, as if what he was, the original story of who Koheiji-san was. But then eventually it just turned into I don't know what it turned into. Tragedy. Maybe the movie should be called The Tragedy of Koheiji. I mean, that's what it'd do if you were to Shakespeare. It'd be the Tragedy of Koheiji-san. And of course, don't forget, nowadays, current days, modern days, if you were to play Koheiji-san or one of these stories, pardon me, you might actually be haunted. You would be reawakening the ghost of Kohada Koehiji-san. So, and I thought this was just going to be a boring story, like a ghost story. This is a real ghost story. This is something for Halloween. Wow. So, anybody who wants to have a real ghost story, this almost tops it. This is probably one great story. Would this be good to make into a horror film? That would be so weird. Well, anyone who's made it 30 minutes into the story, I hope you have a good fun time collecting candy and scaring the wits out of people. I sure am scared. Cheers, ya. おやすみ。